A first human ship appeared at the edge of hegemony space on a Tuesday morning. At least, it was Tuesday morning on the planet Sirion Prime, where the Galactic Hegemony kept their biggest military base. Commander Zixathan was drinking his morning stimulant when the alarm went off. His 4 eyes blinked in different directions as he read the report on his screen. A small metal ship had just dropped out of faster-than-light travel near the Zarian system. The ship was crude and simple. It looked like someone had welded metal plates together and stuck an engine on the back. Impossible, Zixathan said to his aide. No species builds ships like that anymore, not for thousands of years. The aide, a young officer with purple skin and too many arms, looked nervous. Sir, the ship is sending signals. They say they are. From a place called Earth. They want to talk. Zixathan laughed. His laugh sounded like rocks falling down a mountain. Earth? Never heard of it. Probably some lost colony ship from the old days. Tell them to go home. But the human ship did not go home. It stayed right where it was, sending the same message over and over. This is Captain Sarah Chun of the Earth. Ship Endeavor, we come in peace. We want to talk to your leaders. 3 days later, more ships arrived. Then more. Soon there were dozens of human ships scattered around hegemony space. They all looked the same crude, simple design. They all sent the same polite messages asking to talk. The Hegemony Council met in their great hall on the capital world of Dominus. 12 different alien species sat around a table made from a single piece of crystal. Each species had conquered hundreds of worlds. Together, they ruled over 10,000 star systems and countless billions of beings. Emperor Vothkar was the leader of the council. He was old, even by the standards of his long-lived species. His skin was like black leather, and his eyes glowed. Red in the dark. He had seen the rise and fall of 100 civilizations. These humans, he said, his voice echoing in the great hall. What do we know about them? Ambassador Zixathan stood up. He had been promoted after the first contact incident. Not much, Your Majesty. They come from a small yellow star in the outer rim. Only one planet. Maybe 10 billion individuals. Their technology is basic. They only discovered faster-than-light travel a few decades ago. 10 billion? Laughed General Krex, the military leader. His species looked like walking sharks with too many teeth. My homeworld has more people than that in one city. Their ships are primitive, continued Zixathan. No energy shields. No quantum weapons. They still use chemical explosives and metal. Projectiles. It's like they're still living in the Dark Ages. Emperor Vothkar nodded slowly. And yet they dare to enter our space uninvited. They must be taught proper respect. The Council had dealt with this situation many times before. When a new species made contact with the hegemony, there was a standard process. First, they would receive an ultimatum. Join the hegemony as a subject species, pay tribute, and accept second-class citizenship, or be destroyed. It was simple. It was efficient. It had worked for thousands of years. Send the standard message, ordered the Emperor. Let them know their choices. Ambassador Zixathan took his fastest ship to meet the humans. The meeting place was a neutral space station that the hegemony used for first contact situations. The station was huge, designed to show off hegemony power and technology. Captain Sarah Chun arrived in a small shuttle. She was smaller than Zix had expected. Humans, it turned out, were quite short compared to most hegemony species. She had dark hair and brown eyes, and wore a simple blue uniform with no decorations. Welcome, said Zixathan in the trade language that most species used for diplomacy. I am Ambassador Zixathan of the Galactic Hegemony. Thank you for meeting with me, replied Captain Chun. Her voice was calm and steady. I'm Captain Chun, representing Earth and humanity. They sat in a large room with windows that showed the stars outside. Zigzithan had arranged for several hegemony, warships to be visible through the windows. He wanted the human to understand what kind of power she was dealing with. "Let me be direct," said Zigzithan. "The galactic hegemony rules this part of the galaxy. We have brought peace and order to 10,000 worlds. We offer the same to your species." He activated a holographic display that showed the size of hegemony space. Thousands of star systems glowed in the projection. Earth appeared as a tiny dot on the very edge. "Your species has two choices," continued Zigzithan. "Join us willingly and enjoy the benefits of hegemony citizenship. You will pay tribute equal to 30% of your world's production. Your people will serve in our military and workforces as needed. You will follow hegemony law and custom. In return, you will have peace and protection." Captain Shun listened, without interruption. Her face showed no emotion. "The alternative," said Zigzithan, "is complete destruction. We have the power to turn your world into dust. Your people will cease to exist. Your history will be forgotten. Choose wisely." The ambassador sat back in his chair. This was usually the moment when new species broke down. Some begged for mercy. Some tried to negotiate. Some offered desperate bribes. But they all surrendered in the end. Captain Shun was quiet for a long moment. She looked out the window at the hegemony warships. She looked at the holographic display showing the vast size of the empire. Then she looked back at Zigzithan. "Thank you for the offer," she said politely. "We respectfully decline." Zigzithan blinked all four of his eyes. "I'm sorry, what did you say?" "We decline," repeated Captain Shun. "We choose not to join your empire." But that means war," stammered Zigzithan. "That means the destruction of your entire species." Captain Shun nodded. "Yes, I understand that." "You understand?" Zigzithan's voice rose in pitch. "You understand that we will destroy every human in the galaxy? That your children will die? That your cities will burn?" "Yes," said Captain Shun calmly. "We understand." Zigzithan stood up quickly, his chair falling over behind him. "This is madness. Look at the display. We control 10,000 star systems. You control one. We have millions of warships. You have dozens." Captain Shun also stood up. Despite being much shorter than the alien ambassador, she somehow seemed to fill the room with her presence. "Ambassador," she said, "I think you misunderstand something about humans. We didn't come here to surrender. We came here to give you a chance to avoid war. You've made your choice. Now we'll make ours." She walked toward the door, then stopped, and turned back. "Oh, an ambassador? You might want to tell your emperor something. In human military doctrine, we have a saying, 'If we launch, we don't come back.' You should think about what that means." Then she was gone, leaving Zigzithan alone in the room, with the holographic display still showing the vast size of the hegemony and the tiny dot that was Earth. For the first time in his long career, Ambassador Zigzithan felt something he had never felt before when dealing with a primitive species. He felt afraid. Admiral Korth was not worried about the humans. Why should he be? He commanded the 47th Fleet, one of the most powerful military forces in the galaxy. His ships were fast, deadly, and equipped with the best technology the hegemony could build. Admiral was a member of the Krillian species. His people were natural warriors, with thick armor-like skin and multiple arms that could operate weapon systems faster than any other known species. Korth had won battles against enemies that outnumbered him 10-1. He had never lost a single engagement in 30 years of service. "How many human ships are we facing?" he asked his intelligence officer. Lieutenant Vex checked her reports. She was a small, quick species with large eyes that could see in many different light spectrums. Our scouts report approximately 200 human vessels scattered throughout the Outer Rim, sir. They seem to be protecting mining colonies and research stations. 200 ships, laughed Admiral Korth. I have 800 ships in this fleet alone. This will be over in a few hours. But as his fleet moved toward human space, something strange began to happen. The hegemony had the best listening technology in the galaxy. They could intercept almost any communication signal. What they heard from the human ships confused them. Sir, said communications specialist Nix, we're picking up human military traffic. But it's odd. Odd how? Asked Admiral Korth. They keep saying the same phrase over and over. If we launch, we don't come back. What do you think it means? Admiral Korth thought about it. Probably poor logistics. These primitive species never plan their supply lines properly. They probably don't have enough fuel to retreat. But as they listened to more human communications, other strange phrases kept appearing. Mission success is the only acceptable outcome. Retreat is not an option. Victory or death. The fleet's tactical computer began analyzing human ship designs based on long-range sensor data. What it found was disturbing. Admiral, said Chief Engineer Zorp, I've been studying the human ship configurations. There's something wrong with them. Wrong how? Well, sir, they carry minimal life support reserves. Most species carry enough air, water, and food for extended operations. The humans barely carry enough for a few days. And their engines, sir? Their engines don't have proper safety systems. Admiral Korth frowned. What do you mean? Most starship engines have multiple safety protocols to prevent overload. The humans have removed most of these systems. Their engines can be pushed far beyond normal limits, but if they do, the ship will be destroyed. Why would anyone design ships like that? I don't know, sir. It's almost like they're not planning to bring the ships home. The intelligence reports got stranger as the fleet approached human territory. Human military academies, it turned out, taught very different lessons than hegemony schools. Lieutenant Vex brought Admiral Korth a translated copy of a human military manual. Sir, you need to read this. The manual was called Combat Operations and Strategic Doctrine. Admiral Korth read it with growing confusion. Section 3.7, Retreat and Withdrawal, he read aloud. Retreat is authorized only for civilian evacuation scenarios. Military personnel are expected to maintain position until mission objectives are achieved, regardless of casualty projections. Section 4.2, Acceptable Loss Ratios. Mission success takes priority over unit preservation. Commanders are authorized to accept 100% casualties if mission objectives can be achieved. Admiral Korth put down the manual. This has to be a translation error. No species fights like this. Sir, said Lieutenant Vex quietly, I've checked. The translation 7 times. It's correct. The Admiral called a meeting of his senior officers. They gathered in the flagship's main conference room, a circular chamber with displays showing the positions of all fleet units. I want opinions, said Admiral Korth. What are we dealing with here? General Vex, the fleet's ground combat commander, spoke first. Admiral, I've been reviewing human military history. They've been fighting wars on their homeworld for thousands of years. But the way they fight, it's not normal. Explain. Most species fight until the cost becomes too high, then they negotiate or retreat. Humans fight until one side is completely destroyed. They have something called total war, where entire populations are mobilized for combat. Commander Yex, the fleets. Chief Strategist added, Sir, I've been analyzing their ship movements. Human vessels don't maintain proper escape vectors. When they enter combat, they position themselves in ways that make retreat impossible. That's suicide, said Admiral Korth. Double quotes, yes, sir. That's exactly what it is. The fleet's medical officer, Dr. Plex, had been studying human biology. Admiral, I've discovered something disturbing about human psychology. They have a concept called self-sacrifice. They're actually capable of deliberately choosing death if they believe it serves a greater purpose. All species have individuals who will sacrifice themselves, said Admiral Korth. No, sir, not individuals. Their entire culture is built around this concept. They celebrate soldiers who die in battle. They teach their children that dying for others is the highest honor. They have thousands of stories and songs about people who chose death over defeat. Admiral Korth was beginning to feel uneasy. What does this mean for our operations? Commander Yex pulled up a tactical display. Sir, based on their ship positions and communication patterns, I believe the humans are not trying to win battles. In the traditional sense. What do you mean? They're trying to make victory cost more than defeat. Every human ship that dies is positioned to take as many of our ships with it as possible. They're not fighting to survive, sir. They're fighting to make us pay the highest possible price. The room fell silent. Every officer present had fought in dozens of battles. They understood tactics, strategy, and the mathematics of warfare. But they had never faced an enemy that treated their own lives as expendable resources. Sir, said Lieutenant Vex, there's something else. We've intercepted communications from the human homeworld. They're not trying to hide their plans. She activated a recording. A human voice, translated into the trade language, filled the room. All fleet commanders, this is Earth Strategic Command. You are reminded that retreat authorization is not expected under any circumstances. Your mission is to inflict maximum damage on enemy forces. Survival is secondary to mission completion. If we launch, we don't come back. Earth Strategic Command out. Admiral Korth stared at the display showing human ship positions. 200 primitive vessels against his 800 advanced warships. By every measure of military science, this should be a simple victory. So why did he feel like he was about to make a terrible mistake? Sir, said Commander Yex, what are your orders? Admiral Korth looked around the room at his officers. These were experienced warriors who had conquered star systems and defeated entire civilizations. But none of them had ever faced an enemy that didn't want to survive. Begin the attack, he said finally, but maintain maximum alert status. I have a feeling these humans are going to surprise us. As the fleet moved toward the first human position, Admiral Korth couldn't shake the feeling that he was about to learn something new about warfare, something that would change everything he thought he knew about combat. The humans had said, if we launch, we don't come back. Admiral Korth was about to discover that they meant exactly what they said. The battle began at 08:00 hours, Hegemony Standard Time. Admiral Korth's sensors showed 12 human ships defending a small mining colony in the Kepler 442 system. The colony had maybe 50,000 people living in domed cities on 3 small moons. Easy target, said Commander Yex. We'll demand surrender. They'll give up, and we can move on to the next system. Admiral Korth had brought 200 ships to this engagement. He wanted to overwhelm the humans quickly and show them the futility of resistance. His ships formed a perfect battle formation, with heavy cruisers in the center and fast attack. Ships on the flanks. The human ships were arranged in a simple line between the hegemony fleet and the colony. They looked tiny on the tactical display, like children's toys facing a pack of hungry wolves. Open communication channels, ordered Admiral Korth. Let's give them a chance to surrender. The main screen activated, showing the bridge of the lead human ship. A woman in a dark blue uniform appeared. She had gray hair and tired eyes, but her voice was steady. This is Commander Elena Vasquez of the Earth Defense Ship Marathon. You are approaching a protected human colony. Please state your intentions. Admiral Korth leaned forward in his command chair. Commander Vasquez, I am Admiral Korth of the Galactic Hegemony 47th Fleet. You are outnumbered nearly 20-1. Surrender now, and your people will be treated fairly. Commander Vasquez was quiet for a moment. Behind her, Admiral Korth could see other humans working at their stations. No one seemed panicked or afraid. They just looked focused, like people doing an important job. Admiral, said Commander Vasquez, we appreciate the offer, but we must decline. This colony is under Earth protection. We will not allow you to harm these people. Commander, be reasonable, said Admiral Korth. You have 12 ships. I have 200. Your weapons are primitive. Your armor is weak. You cannot win this battle. Commander Vasquez smiled sadly. Admiral, I think you misunderstand what we're trying to do here. We're not trying to win. We're trying to make you lose. The communication cut off before Admiral Korth could ask what she meant. Sir, said Lieutenant Vex, the human ships are moving. Admiral Korth looked at the tactical display. The 12 human ships had broken their defensive line. But instead of retreating or trying to flank his forces, they were doing something impossible. They were charging straight at his fleet. What are they doing? Asked Commander Yex. That's suicide. The human ships accelerated at maximum speed directly toward the center of the hegemony formation. They ignored the smaller ships on the flanks and focused all their attention on the heavy cruisers in the middle. All ships open fire, ordered Admiral Korth. Destroy them before they reach us. The space between the two fleets lit up with energy beams and missile trails. The hegemony had the most advanced weapons in the galaxy. Their targeting systems were perfect. Their firepower was overwhelming. But the human ships kept coming. The first human ship, the Marathon, took a direct hit from a plasma cannon that should have vaporized it completely. The ship's hull glowed red-hot, and pieces of metal flew off into space. But it didn't stop. It didn't even slow down. Impossible, whispered Admiral Korth. That ship should be destroyed. Sir, said Chief Engineer Zorp, I'm reading massive internal damage to that human ship. Life support is failing. The crew should be dead. But Commander Vasquez's voice came over the communication system one more time. Her image on the screen showed smoke and sparks in the background. Half her crew stations were empty. All ships, she said calmly, remember our mission. If we launch, we don't come back. Make it count. The Marathon slammed into the side of Admiral Korth's heaviest cruiser, the Dominator. But it didn't just crash into the ship. At the moment of impact, the Marathon's engines overloaded in a controlled explosion that tore through both ships. By the void, gasped Admiral Korth. They turned their ship into a bomb. The second human ship, the Endeavor, was also badly damaged but still moving. It targeted the fleet's largest carrier and repeated the same maneuver. Ship, crew, and target disappeared in a ball of nuclear fire. All ships evasive action, ordered Admiral Korth. Don't let them get close. But the human ships weren't following normal tactics. They didn't try to preserve themselves or maintain formation. Each ship picked a target and threw itself at that target with complete disregard for survival. The third human ship lost its engines, but didn't stop. The crew used emergency thrusters to push their disabled ship into a collision course with a hegemony destroyer. The fourth ship was cut in half by weapons fire, but the front half kept moving, guided by manual controls, until it reached its target. Admiral Korth watched in horror as his perfectly planned battle turned into chaos. His ships were trying to maintain formation while avoiding kamikaze attacks from enemies who acted like guided missiles. Sir, reported Lieutenant Vex, we've destroyed 8 human ships, but they've taken down 15 of ours. How is that possible? There, Not trying to survive the engagement, sir. Every human ship is positioned to cause maximum damage when it dies. The tactical display showed the remaining 4 human ships still advancing. They were all damaged, all leaking atmosphere, but they kept coming with the same mechanical determination. Admiral Korth had seen battles where desperate enemies fought to the last ship, but those enemies still tried to survive. They used tactics designed to stay alive while inflicting damage. The humans were using tactics designed to die as efficiently as possible. "Sir," said Dr. Plex, the medical officer, "I'm monitoring life. Signs on the human ships. The crews are still alive on most of them, but they're choosing to stay at their posts despite fatal radiation exposure." "They're choosing to die?" "Yes, sir. They could escape in life pods, but they're not. They're staying to guide their ships to the targets." The 9th human ship reached the Hegemony Fleet's command cruiser. The explosion was so bright, it overloaded the sensors. When the display cleared, both ships were gone. Admiral Korth realized something that made his blood run cold. The humans weren't fighting a battle. They were conducting a mathematical exchange. Each human ship was calculated to destroy at least one, and usually more, hegemony ships. The 10th and 11th human ships struck their targets within seconds of each other. The sound of alarms filled the bridge as Admiral Korth's fleet began to fall apart. The last human ship, the Victory, was barely holding together. Its hull was cracked, its engines were failing, and sensors showed no life signs on most decks. But it still moved toward Admiral Korth's flagship. "All weapons target." "That ship!" shouted Admiral Korth. "Destroy it now." Every weapon that could fire at the Victory did. The human ship disappeared in a storm of energy and explosions. For a moment, Admiral Korth thought it was over. Then the wreckage of the Victory, guided by the last surviving crew member, crashed into the flagship's engine section. Admiral Korth felt his ship shake and heard the horrible sound of metal tearing. Emergency lights flashed as his flagship began to lose power. "Damage report," he ordered. "Sir," said Chief Engineer Zorp, "main engines are offline. Life support is failing on 15 decks. We need immediate evacuation to the secondary command ship." As Admiral Korth and his staff transferred to another ship, he looked at the battle display. All 12 human ships were destroyed, but they had taken 43 hegemony vessels with them, including his flagship and 2 heavy cruisers. Importantly, they had destroyed the fleet's medical ship, supply depot, and primary communications relay. The 47th Fleet was still operational, but it was crippled. "Sir," said Lieutenant Vex quietly, "we're receiving a transmission from the human colony." The main screen showed an older human man in civilian clothes. Behind him, Admiral Korth could see the mining colony continuing its normal operations as if nothing had happened. "Admiral Korth," said the man, "I'm Director Chun, administrator of this colony. I wanted to thank you for the demonstration." "Demonstration?" Admiral Korth's voice was hoarse. "Yes, you've just learned something important about humanity. We don't fight to win battles. We fight to make victory cost more than defeat. Commander Vasquez and her crew died to teach you that lesson." Director Chun paused, looking directly at Admiral Korth through the screen. "Admiral, you destroyed 12 of our ships and killed 300 people. In return, we destroyed 43 of your ships and killed over 20,000 of your people. By any mathematical measure, we lost this battle, but we won the exchange." The transmission ended, leaving Admiral Korth staring at a blank screen. The first time in his military career, Admiral Korth had won a battle and felt like he had lost a war. He sent his report to Hegemony Command with shaking hands. At the end, he added a personal note: "Request immediate reinforcements. The humans fight like nothing we have ever encountered. They don't fear death. They embrace it as a weapon." Admiral Korth did not know it yet, but his message would change. The course of the war. The hegemony was about to learn that some enemies are more dangerous when they're dying than when they're living. Emperor Vothkar read Admiral Korth's battle report 3 times. Each time, the numbers made less sense. 43 ships, he said aloud in his private chamber. They lost 43 ships to 12 primitives. His advisor, Chancellor Kex, stood nearby with several data tablets. Your Majesty, Admiral Korth has requested immediate reinforcements. He says the humans fight unlike anything we've encountered. 1 battle, growled the Emperor. 1 bad battle, and he loses his nerve. Send him more ships. Send him 3 fleets. Crush these insects once and for all. Chancellor Kex hesitated. Sir, perhaps we should study this battle more carefully. The Admiral's report mentioned some unusual tactics. Unusual tactics? The Emperor's red eyes flared. Kex, we have conquered 10,000 worlds. We have faced every possible form of warfare. There is nothing these primitives can teach us. Yes, Your Majesty. 3 weeks later, the 12th, 23rd, and 31st fleets arrived. In human space, nearly 1,500 ships, representing the largest military force the hegemony had assembled in decades. General Vex commanded the combined force from his flagship, the Annihilator. This time we do it properly, General Vex told his staff. No single engagements, no chances for heroic last stands. We hit every human position simultaneously with overwhelming force. The plan was perfect. 17 human colonies and outposts would be attacked at the same time. The humans would have no time to coordinate, no chance to prepare their suicide tactics. It would be over in hours. General Vex was confident right up until the first reports came in. Sir, said his communication. Officer, we're getting reports from all battle groups. The humans are ... They're doing it again. Doing what again? The same thing they did to Admiral Korth. They're turning their ships into weapons. On the planet Kepler 438b, the hegemony's 12th fleet faced 30 human ships defending a research station. The humans waited until the hegemony ships were in close formation, then activated some kind of signal. All 30 human ships accelerated at maximum speed in different directions, but they weren't trying to escape. They were positioning themselves throughout the hegemony formation before detonating their engines. A synchronized explosion destroyed 60 hegemony ships in less than 5 minutes. At the mining colony on Wolf 359, something even more disturbing happened. The human defenders had prepared their entire asteroid mining facility as a weapon. When hegemony ground forces landed to capture the colony, the humans triggered explosives that turned the asteroid into a massive projectile. The asteroid, guided by human engineers who stayed at their posts until the end, crashed into the hegemony fleet above the planet. The impact destroyed 8 ships and severely damaged 12 more. They turned an entire asteroid into a missile, reported Colonel Vex from the surface. The human civilians helped prepare it. They knew they would die, but they did it anyway. General Vex stared at the reports coming in from 17 different battle zones. Every engagement followed the same pattern. The humans would fight with complete disregard for their own survival, turning every ship, every station, every piece of equipment to a weapon. At the research outpost on Proxima Centauri B, the humans had rigged their entire facility to explode. But they waited until hegemony troops were inside before triggering the detonation. The explosion killed everyone on the station, human and alien alike. The message they broadcast before the explosion was simple. You can take our worlds, but you'll have to buy each one with blood. Dr. Plex, now serving with the combined fleet, compiled a disturbing psychological profile of human behavior. Sir, he reported to General Vex, I believe we have fundamentally misunderstood what we're fighting. Explain. Most species view warfare as an extension of politics. They fight until the cost becomes too high, then they negotiate. But humans don't seem to view this as a political conflict. They're treating it as an existential struggle. General Vex looked at the casualty reports. In 3 weeks of fighting, his forces had destroyed every human military installation they had encountered. By every traditional measure, they were winning the war, but they had lost over 30% of their ships. The human losses were total. Every human ship, every station, every defensive position had been completely destroyed. But the exchange rate was always in the humans' favor. "Sir," said his intelligence officer, "we're intercepting new communications from Earth. The humans are. They're doing something strange." Strange how? They're retrofitting civilian ships for combat. Cargo haulers, passenger liners, even small personal craft. They're removing all non-essential systems and installing weapons and explosives. General, Dex felt a chill run down his spine. How many civilian ships do they have? Thousands, sir. Maybe tens of thousands. The intelligence reports got worse. Human schools were now teaching military tactics to children as young as 10 years old. Civilian factories had been converted to produce weapons and explosives. The entire human population was being organized for total warfare. "They're not just mobilizing their military," reported Dr. Plex. "They're mobilizing their entire species." General Vex called an emergency meeting of his senior staff. The conference room aboard the Annihilator was filled with battle-hardened officers who had never seen anything like this conflict. "Opinions," said General Vex. "What are we dealing with?" Admiral Kex, who had replaced the wounded Admiral Korth, spoke first. "Sir, I've been analyzing human tactical behavior. They're not fighting to win individual battles. They're fighting to maximize our casualties. That's obvious." "No, sir. It's more than that. They've calculated the exchange rate. They know exactly how many of our ships they can destroy before running out of humans. And they've determined that the rate is favorable to them." The room fell silent. Colonel Vex, the ground force commander, added, "Sir, we captured some human strategic documents on Proxima Centauri B. Before they destroyed the base, I mean. The documents show they're treating this war as a mathematical problem." "Mathematical?" "Yes, sir. They've calculated our total military strength, our production capacity, our population. Then they've calculated their own resources. They've concluded that they can inflict enough damage to cripple the hegemony permanently, even if it means the complete extinction of their species." General Vex stared at the holographic display showing human space. The tiny region looked insignificant compared to the vast hegemony. But every human world was now a potential weapon. "Sir," said Dr. Plex, "I've been studying human psychology more deeply. They have a concept called Pyrrhic victory, winning a battle but losing so much in the process that the victory is meaningless." "So, sir, I don't think they're trying to achieve Pyrrhic victory. I think they're trying to give us one. They want us to win this war by destroying humanity, but they want that victory to cost us everything." The communication officer interrupted the meeting. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission from Earth. It's being broadcast on all frequencies." The main screen activated, showing a human woman in a military uniform. She was standing in what looked like a military command center. Behind her, dozens of humans worked at computer stations. "I am General Maria Santos, Supreme Commander of Earth Defense Forces," she said. "This message is for Emperor Vothkar and the hegemony leadership." General Vex leaned forward. This was the first time any human leader had communicated directly. "With hegemony command, your fleets had destroyed 17 of our colonies and outposts," continued General Santos. "You have killed thousands of our people. You consider this a victory. We consider it a down payment." She gestured to something off-screen, and the display changed to show human shipyards. Thousands of vessels were under construction, but they looked different from normal ships. They were smaller, faster, and appeared to be built for only one purpose. "We are currently constructing 12,000 combat vessels," said General Santos. "Each one is designed for a single mission, to destroy as many hegemony ships as possible before being destroyed itself. We estimate each ship will achieve a 3-to-1 kill ratio." General Vex did quick mental math. 12,000 ships with a 3-to-1 ratio meant 36,000 hegemony vessels destroyed. That was more than half their total fleet strength. "You have a choice," continued General Santos. "Withdraw from human space now, and this ends here. Continue your attacks, and we will implement what we call the final protocol." "What is the final protocol?" whispered Admiral Kex. General Santos seemed to hear the question. "The final protocol is simple. Every human ship, every human world, every human in the galaxy becomes a weapon pointed at the hegemony. We will fight until every human is dead and your empire is broken." She paused, looking directly into the camera. "Emperor Voth-Kar, your species has ruled this galaxy for thousands of years. You've built a great civilization. Ask yourself, is it worth destroying all of that just to kill us? Because that's what it will cost you. We're not fighting for victory. We're fighting to ensure that conquering humanity is indistinguishable from mutual annihilation." The transmission ended, leaving the conference room in complete silence. General Vex looked around at his officers. These were warriors who had conquered star systems, defeated entire civilizations. But they all looked shaken by what they had just heard. Emperor Voth-Kar had not slept in 3 days. He stood in his private chamber, looking out at the capital city of Dominos through a window that was taller than most buildings. The city stretched to the horizon, a testament to 10,000 years of hegemony power. Now it might all be destroyed by a species that had only learned to travel between stars. A few decades ago, Chancellor Kex entered the chamber carrying more reports. His usual confident posture was gone, replaced by the bent shoulders of someone carrying terrible news. "Your Majesty," said Kex, "the War Council has completed their analysis. And the humans are correct in their calculations. If we continue this war to its logical conclusion, we will achieve total victory over humanity. But the cost—" Kex paused, looking at his data tablet. "The cost will be the destruction of 60 to 70% of our military forces." Emperor Voth-Kar turned away from the window. "That still leaves us with the largest military in the galaxy." "Yes, Your Majesty. But our subject species have been watching this conflict very carefully. If we lose most of our fleet destroying humanity, there will be rebellions. Many of our conquered worlds will see this as their chance for independence." The Emperor walked to his desk, where dozens of reports were scattered across the surface. Each one told the same story. The humans were preparing for total war on a scale that defied comprehension. "What about the latest intelligence from Earth?" asked the Emperor. "Disturbing, Your Majesty. They've begun training their children for combat operations. Not just military training, they're teaching civilian children how to operate weapons, how to sabotage equipment, how to turn any object into an explosive device." Chancellor Kex activated a holographic display showing the latest reconnaissance. Images from Earth. The planet looked like a fortress. Every city was being fortified. Every factory was producing weapons. Every school had become a military training center. "They're not just preparing their military for war," continued Kex. "They're preparing their entire species for extinction. But they're going to take as many of us with them as possible." A communication alert sounded. General Vex appeared on the main screen, calling from his flagship in human space. "Your Majesty," said General Vex, "we've intercepted more human communications. They've begun something called Operation Afterglow." What is Operation Afterglow? Sir, they're rigging their entire homeworld to explode. If we attack Earth directly, they plan to turn the planet into a weapon. Our scientists calculate that the explosion would destroy any fleet within the solar system. Emperor Voth-Kar felt something he had not experienced in centuries, genuine fear. They would destroy their own homeworld? Yes, Your Majesty. And they're doing the same thing to every human colony. Every world, every station, every ship is being prepared for use as a weapon. They call it the Final Protocol. The Emperor sat down heavily in his chair. The weight of 10,000 years of hegemony history pressed down on him. His ancestors had built this empire through careful strategy, overwhelming force, and the simple fact that no species had ever been willing to pay the ultimate price for freedom. The humans were different. They were willing to pay any price, including their own extinction. Sir, continued General Dex, there's something else. We've detected massive construction projects in the human solar system. They're building something big. What kind of something? We're not sure, Your Majesty. But our long-range sensors show structures being built around their star. If I didn't know better, I'd say they were trying to turn their sun into a weapon. Chancellor Kex pulled up the technical analysis. Your Majesty, our scientists have studied the Human Construction Project. If they complete it, they could trigger a solar flare large enough to sterilize every world within 50 light years, including their own worlds. Yes, Your Majesty, including their own worlds. Emperor Voth-Kar stood up and walked back to the window. In the distance, he could see the spaceports where hegemony ships came and went, carrying goods and people across 10,000 star systems. It was a civilization built on the idea that rational beings would always choose survival over principle. The humans were proving that some beings were not rational. Your Majesty, said General Dex from the screen, I need orders. Do we proceed with the final assault on Earth? The Emperor was quiet for a long time. He thought about his ancestors who had built the hegemony. He thought about the billions of beings who lived peaceful lives under hegemony protection. He thought about the future of galactic civilization. Then he thought about the humans who were willing to destroy everything rather than surrender. General Dex, said the Emperor finally, what is your professional military assessment of this conflict? Sir, we can win this war, but winning will cost us everything we've built. The humans are not fighting for victory. They're fighting to make victory meaningless. And if we withdraw, then we lose face with our subject species. Some will rebel, but we keep our military intact. We can deal with rebellions. We've done it before. But we'll have failed to conquer a primitive species. Yes, Your Majesty, but we'll still exist. Emperor Voth-Kar closed his eyes. For 10,000 years, the hegemony had never faced this choice. They had never encountered a species that preferred mutual destruction to surrender. Chancellor Kex, said the Emperor, what are the alternatives? Sir, the War Council has developed several options. We could continue the war and accept massive casualties. We could withdraw and deal with the political consequences. Or we could offer humanity something we've never offered any species before. Complete independence. Recognition as a sovereign power. A treaty of mutual non-aggression. The idea was revolutionary. The hegemony had never negotiated with equals. They ruled or they destroyed. There was no middle ground. Sir, said General Dex from the screen, I'm receiving a communication from the humans. General Santos wants to speak with you directly. Put her through. The screen changed to show the human military commander. She was standing in what looked like a command bunker deep underground. Behind her, humans worked at stations, monitoring what appeared to be countdown timers. Emperor Voth-Kar, said General Santos, thank you for accepting this communication. General Santos, I understand you have a message for me. Yes, Your Majesty. It's very simple. You have 48 hours to withdraw all hegemony forces from human space. After that, we implement the final protocol. And if we refuse, then in 72 hours, there will be no more humans in the galaxy. But there will also be no more hegemony. We've calculated the exchange rate very carefully. We can take you with us. Emperor Vothkar looked at the countdown timers visible. Behind General Santos, you would really destroy your entire species? Your Majesty, our species has a saying, give me liberty, or give me death. We've chosen death over slavery for thousands of years. We're not going to stop now, but your children, your future, everything you've built. General Santos was quiet for a moment. When she spoke again, her voice was sad but determined. Your Majesty, do you have children? I do. Then you understand. We're not doing this for ourselves. We're doing this so that somewhere, someday, there might be children who grow up free, even if they're not our children. The communication ended, leaving Emperor Vothkar alone with his thoughts. Chancellor Kex spoke quietly. Your Majesty, what are your orders? The Emperor looked out the window one more time at the great city of Dominos. Then he made a decision. That would change the history of the galaxy. Send a message to all hegemony forces, he said. Order them to withdraw from human space immediately. Sir, and prepare a formal treaty. We are going to recognize humanity as a sovereign power. Full independence, mutual non-aggression pact, protected status. Your Majesty, the other species will let them rebel if they want to. We can deal with rebellions. We cannot deal with species that prefer death to surrender. Chancellor Kex began writing the orders. Sir, what do we call this new status? We've never had a treaty like this before. Emperor Vothkar thought about it. Call humanity a protected autonomous species. Not because we're protecting them, but because we're protecting ourselves from them. 1 hour later, General Santos received the hegemony withdrawal order. She looked at the message for a long time, then turned to her staff. Stand down the final protocol, she said. We won. General, asked one of her officers, did we really win? We never fired a shot at their homeworld. General Santos smiled for the first time in months. Son, the greatest victory is the one where your enemy defeats himself. They spent 10,000 years conquering species that wanted to live. They finally met a species that wasn't afraid to die. She looked up at the monitors showing human space where hegemony ships were already beginning their withdrawal. We didn't win by being stronger, she said. We won by being willing to lose everything. 6 months later, Emperor Vothkar issued a galaxy-wide proclamation. It read, in part, let it be known throughout the galaxy that humanity shall be accorded full autonomy and protection under hegemony law. Any species or entity that threatens human worlds will face the full wrath of the hegemony military. The proclamation puzzled many of the Empire's subjects. Why would the hegemony protect a species that had defied them? Only the Emperor's inner circle knew the truth. The hegemony wasn't protecting humanity from others.